It's cheat night tonight, so we're enjoying some wine, and this is the second part of the squat series. So what I want to talk about today is we discussed the mobility squat and the assessment squat with feet straight ahead, but what is the position for squatting where I'm going to be able to move the most weight? Let's first go back to that feet straight ahead squat and figure out, is this an optimal position for most people, not all, to lift weight? So if we look at this position, my feet are straight ahead, I'm pushing the knees out. What's happening here and why I feel so tight and springy, which is good because I can sit here and I can drink wine and play with my dog, I'm very taut in this bottom position, is I'm stretching and I'm loading my passive structures, particularly the posterior hip capsule. That's what's giving me that sort of torque and that springiness at the bottom. But for our purposes, just like when we don't want to hang off the passive structures of our spine when we're deadlifting, we don't necessarily want to hang off or rely on the passive structures of our hip when we're squatting. So rather, when I come into a squat, I want to be as neutral as possible. This concept of centration, I tell you, this concept of joint centration, which is the point where you're going to get the most or the maximal surface area contact of the joint, between the joints. This position is when we are toes slightly out and knees track the toes. So I notice that I don't have that same springy feeling at the bottom, but in order to stay engaged, right, I'm a lot more active in the bottom. When I'm hanging off or relying on passive structures, I'm not very active. I'm very bouncy, very springy because I have those passive structures loaded and I have that torque, I have those torsion forces. But when it comes to moving weight, we want to be in a position where we're going to get that MVIC, that maximum voluntary isometric contraction, that position where I'm going to have that strongest equal co-contraction between the agonist and antagonist, and that's the position of centration. And that's going to be with toes slightly out, knees tracking the toes. This is where I'm going to be able to lift the most weight in most cases. And the dog just hit the lights.
Setting the mood.
We're setting the mood here. A dog's going after the cat. We're probably going to have to redo the whole video. We're back on. Fantastic. So, points being made. All right, feet straight ahead. Cool, right? I'm loaded, these passive structures. I can sit here and I can eat a bowl of Captain Crunch. I can do some mobility work. I can drink some wine. But when it comes to moving the big boy and the big girl weights, we want to turn those toes slightly out. We want to find that centration. Knees track the toes. All right, I'm not, boom. I'm here. Knees are tracking the toes, not pushing the knees out. Spine is long and tall. This is where I'm going to get that equal co-contraction. This is where I'm going to be able to move the big weight. Okay? So, this is part 2 of the series. Feet straight ahead has its place. Toes out has its place. Neither is wrong. We're just looking for what is the best or most optimal or most common position where we see athletes move the most weight. And the winner for me is toes slightly out is where we're going to move the most weight. All right, until part 3, stay tuned.